Serious people who have been clinically dead and brought back to life. What was your experience? Attention. Serious tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent, or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I'm a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit, /message/compose/to/r/askreddit if you have any questions or concerns. When I was 10 years old, I fell from the roof of our house and landed on my head. I was in and out of consciousness on the way to the hospital via ambulance. When I recovered, they said I was legally dead at one point at the hospital, but they revived me with paddles after 5 minutes. I remember nothing at all, only the darkness of a deep dreamless sleep. The headache when I came to was unbearable. I was extremely lucky not to have any major spinal damage from the fall. Just a huge lump on my head that went away after about a week. No other injuries. Aside from the experience everyone really talks about when they are dying, while they think it is what they experience when they are actually dead, such as seeing a light or loved ones, there was absolutely nothing. No sense of calm, no darkness, nothing. One moment I was dying and seeing things, and the next I was coming back alive. I don't remember a thing. I had a pretty traumatic experience before I died that I would prefer not to revisit. When I came back, it was like waking up from a long nap. Nothing in between. It is scary, but also a bit comforting. It all depends on your perspective. Pretty uneventful. I shot dope, got really high, then dropped to the floor. My friends packed my groin with ice cubes and took turns punching me in the face, but I just lay there, unresponsive. EMTs saved me. I almost certainly suffered some amount of brain damage, as I was gone for several minutes. There was no bright light, nothing noteworthy. I'm convinced that when you go, you're worm food, no fancy cosmic procession. The paramedics treated me like human garbage after I came back, and for most of the ambulance ride to the hospital, they treated me like an actual person once I was lucid enough to be articulate. All I could think of was my mother. If I had stayed dead, she would have perished from grief. Last time I ever stuck a needle in my arm, about 13 years ago. Was crushed by a semi on an ice road. My entire existence turned into vibration or sound. Just a huge center of a thunderbolt crashing, shaking, booming vibration. Next thing I know, it all subsides, and instead of pain, everything starts fading. I felt my balls try to void, my lungs not respond to my desire to breathe, and then I was floating in a void with a bubble of light suspended some distance in front of me. It was incredibly relaxing, comforting, and freeing. I knew without a doubt I had died. I wasn't scared or anything really. I had clarity of thought not skewed by emotion. I started to look at the light now, and realized it was a projection of what my eyes were seeing through my slumped overhead. I could see my cell phone on the floor of my truck, where my head was pointing, and had a thought about how I just died, and I didn't say goodbye to my wife or my kids, and how they are going to feel. I wished I could get to the phone, and suddenly I started moving forward and back into my normal frame of reference. I started breathing again. The pain started too. I slowly regained some motor function, and reached for my phone. But I could feel the blood draining out of me, and knew if I called anyone it would be for them to listen to me die. I was conscious again, so I was going to do something. I started feeling around to see what kind of shape I was in. I reached down to my leg, but my fingers just found burger meat. I grabbed at a chunk of jeans and flesh, and started pulling until what was left of my lower leg came flopping out from being wrapped around the brake pedal. I then grabbed and squeezed as hard as I could, knowing most people die in this situation, because it hurts too much to self-apply pressure on massive trauma. I did it anyways, while screaming with the effort. Long story short, other people came. I got bandaged and bounced around in the back of a pickup for 300 kms, and then met the ambulance, got on the good gas, and bounced between hospitals to get re-limbed, stapled and stitched back together. I had a broken tibia, severed Achilles, multiple lacerations, a fractured hip, compressed spine, twisted wrist and a plethora of soft tissue damages and disruption from massive G-force trauma. 5 years later on, and I'm in pain every day, and if given another opportunity will just die. The only thing I remember is that there was no light, no tunnel, no clouds or anything. Just peace, the most amazing peace I've ever felt. Nothing mattered and I wanted to be like that forever. Then I started to hear like a whisper, please breathe, please wake up. It was my aunt giving me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation in the car while someone else was driving. That's when I knew I wasn't breathing. When we arrived to the ER I was rushed into one of the beds and my poor mom could see when the ECG showed that I was flatlining. Long story short, I'm here but I spent 3 good hours trying to remember who I was because I couldn't even remember my mom or my name. Edit. Everybody had different experiences. This was mine. That doesn't mean that everyone's will be the same. I didn't make this post to make people think that dying is amazing. In my experience it was just nothing. If you need to talk to someone please do it. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. https://suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Life is beautiful and you are loved. It was 4 days after I had given birth. I was sitting on my bed holding my son when I suddenly woke up. My son was on the bed and my mom was asking if I was okay. She told me I had a seizure. Now, I've had them before. Last one had been 13 years ago, but this one felt different. I told her to call an ambulance. They get there, and I tell them what happened, and get loaded into the back. That's all I remember physically until the next day, when I woke up in the hospital with my husband sitting in the chair next to my bed. Apparently, I had eclampsia that caused seizures and a high fever. He said at one point they had to revive me. During this I remember dreaming that I had a choice whether I wanted to live or die. I thought about it and knew my husband couldn't handle 2 kids by himself, so I decided to stay. Everything went dark and I woke up in a hospital bed. After I woke up I had trouble with my memory and still do at times. My husband doesn't like to talk about it, so it's hard to get all the details. I had worked in medicine prior to this, so I knew the brain can cause things like this to happen. So I just chalk it up to that. I died in the surgical theater and again in the recovery room. I don't recall anything from the surgical theater, but the recovery room everything started burning, then I got tunnel vision. What I could see started getting further and further away and everything was fading to black. I remember trying to move my arms, but feeling like they were pinned down by an unmovable object. After that, just peace and euphoria for what seemed like an eternity. Then pain. So much pain. Everything was on fire. The surgery site wasn't even the worst, and it was major surgery. I started screaming as best I could. In my head it was loud, but I had a breathing tube down my throat. I wanted to start vomiting everywhere. I passed out after pulling the breathing tube out my throat and spewing everywhere. I was also convinced the recovery room crash doctor was some kind of ginger angel with ginger wings, which is odd as I'm an atheist. After I woke up the second time I asked her out to dinner. She said no. I laughed. Edited for clarification. I got the tube out before spewing. Edit 2. The euphoria was amazing. I've subsequently taken to chasing adrenaline rushes to try and repeat it, but not come close. Thought I'd buck the usual trend of peaceful nothingness with my father's experience. He was slowly dying 4 weeks after his gallbladder removal was utterly botched, and the hospital interpreted his pleas to do something about the wrenching pain to mean he was a druggie obviously looking for a score. It all came to a head one day when my 10-year-old sister had to call 911 because my father was literally about to die. The doctor told my mother that my father's levels were no longer compatible with life. He was pretty much dead. His heart had stopped several times, so she should expect to lose her husband any time. My father remembers being in the room, slightly above everyone, watching like a spectator. He was accepting death, but was very sad about it. He had 3 young children he wanted to see grow up. He didn't want to go. He remembers thinking and feeling these things while he watched doctors try to get him going again. His next memory was waking strapped to the hospital bed with a breathing tube down his throat. Got one arm free and pulled out the tube before someone found him. Over 25 years later he survived lots of stuff. Stage 4 cancer, Graves' disease, various forms of hepatitis, but that was the closest to death he got, and for him in that exact circumstance, there was some existence outside his body. My best friend was hit head on by a drunk driver. He states he does remember the 10-minute ambulance ride to the hospital, but then he coded in the trauma room. He heard a voice claiming to be his grandma talking to him. He never met her as she passed before he was born. They said they were about to call it when they got a pulse back. Cardiac arrhythmia led to full cardiac arrest. I got dizzy, then nothing. Woke up in resus. Wish I could say there was any substance there, but nope. My nana was declared dead for a couple of minutes. She says she doesn't remember anything other than pitch black. There are very different answers throughout the thread. Some saw light, some made choice, some felt nothing. Life and death really is a strange phenomenon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so that you can see when I upload new daily content. Goodbye.